This is 6000 BC. No Wi-Fi, no Netflix, no TikTok. You're standing in Georgia, not the state, but the country somewhere in the middle of a vast, untamed landscape. The sun is beating down on you. There's no AC to save you, and the only thing that's keeping you from fainting from heat is a random patch of shade under a tree. You're hungry, and survival is your main priority. So you're roaming around looking for something to eat. Suddenly, bam, there they are. Grapes, hanging like juice from a vine. They're the kind of grapes that seem to have been placed by the gods themselves. There's no one around, no one to tell you that you shouldn't grab those grapes. So you do. You pluck them off the vine and pop a few in your mouth. Instant refreshment. The juiciness floods your senses. And for a moment, you're the happiest person alive. But you're not just any hungry basic human. Oh no. You're thinking, what if I don't just eat these? What if I put them in a jar and leave them there? I mean, what's the worst that could happen? So you do just that. You toss the grapes in a jar, forget about them, and go about your day. Days pass. You come back to check your jar and boom. What's this? It's not just grape juice anymore. It's something else entirely. Something bubbly. You take a sip and whoa, it's sour. It's bitter and it gives you this warm, fuzzy feeling. You've done it without even thinking, without even trying. You've invented wine. Congrats. This isn't some scientific breakthrough. It's a happy accident. You didn't need to be a genius. You just needed to forget about grapes in a jar. And guess what? You've created the most ancient and beloved drink in history. Fast forward a bit and someone decides to get clever. Instead of just eating the grapes, they're tossed into a big egg-shaped clay jar, sealed up, and buried underground. Why? Who knows? Maybe it was an accident. Maybe someone got bored. But weeks later, boom. Wine. That jar, later called a qvevri, became the secret weapon of ancient Georgians, turning juice into liquid gold. Survival just got a lot more interesting. So you've accidentally invented wine? Great. But this little discovery is about to take over the world. Fast forward to ancient Greece. You're in the middle of a city-state where sandals slap against cobblestones, togas swirl like fashion statements, and everyone's got an opinion on literally everything. Philosophy? Check. Gossip about the gods? Double check. And wine? Oh, wine is the star of the show. It's flowing faster than a drama-filled myth. Wine isn't just a drink. It's the life of the party. Whether you're rich, broke, or somewhere in between, a cup of fermented grape juice is your golden ticket to good vibes. People are sipping, spilling, and debating over it like it's a competitive sport. And then in walks Dionysus, the god of wine. Madness and hold my goblet moments. While Zeus is busy acting like a boss throwing lightning bolts, Dionysus rolls up with an ivy crown and says, "Party starts now." No need for a DJ. He is the DJ. Suddenly it's not just a city. It's a full-on festival. Dancing, singing, and probably someone attempting to explain why the moon might be cheese. Again, it's chaos, but the fun kind. But hey, it wasn't all about chugging wine and bad dance moves. Enter the symposium, basically a classy drinking party where Greeks would sip and talk big ideas. It's like ancient TED Talks, but with unlimited wine refills. Philosophers debated, poets performed, and someone inevitably said, "Bro, what if the gods are just really buff versions of us?" By the end of the night, whether you were solving life's mysteries or just figuring out how not to trip in your toga, one thing was clear. Wine brought people together. And then the Romans showed up, saw the wine-fueled chaos, and said, "All right, Greeks, cool story. Now watch us take this to the next level." Romans. Wine becomes a status symbol. We're not kidding. Now we are in ancient Rome. You step into the bustling streets of Rome, and it's a whole different vibe. The air smells like roasted meats, freshly baked bread, and yep, you guessed it, wine. Everywhere you look, people are either walking around in togas or sitting around discussing philosophy like they're the smartest people on the planet. It's the Roman version of a university campus, but with more gladiators and less homework. The Roman Forum is packed with people talking about politics, soldiers flexing their muscles, and of course, wine everywhere. Wine isn't just a drink here. It's the lifestyle. It's like the Romans looked at the Greeks sipping wine in their togas and thought, yeah, we can do that, but let's make it even bigger. Let's make wine an event. Wine is flowing at every party, every feast, every victory parade. You're not just having a glass. Oh no, you're having gallons. The Romans didn't mess around. Think of it like this. You show up at a party with a basic bottle of wine, and it's like arriving at a red carpet event wearing flip-flops. But show up with something fancy, and suddenly, you're the life of the party. People are like, oh, he brought the good stuff. You're not just drinking, you're making a statement. It's like flexing your friends with the most expensive bottle of wine you could find at the store, but on a much bigger scale. But here's the twist. Not everyone gets to enjoy the good wine. Oh no, if you're not rich, you're drinking something called peasant wine. Now, peasant wine? Imagine if wine was made by the guy who forgot to press the grapes properly, watered it down like crazy, and then added some dirt for flavor. That's what we're talking about here. It's so bad, even the Romans would say, yeah, let's just leave that for the peasants. So while the rich are sipping fine, aged wine and probably getting tipsy and doing cartwheels, which, let's be honest, had to be hilarious, the rest are stuck with whatever they can afford, which is just not the same thing. In Roman society, wine wasn't just about getting a little tipsy. It was about class. The better the wine, the better the reputation. It's like Instagram, but instead of posting pictures of food, you were posting your wine glass with a caption, #living the life, #Bacchus vibes. So after the Romans turned wine into a status symbol, the whole wine scene kind of took a nosedive when the empire fell apart. But don't worry, wine wasn't going anywhere. It was about to get a major glow-up, courtesy of some unexpected heroes. The monks. The Middle Ages. Monks turned wine into an art form. Now you've made it to the Middle Ages. Europe's cold, dark, and a bit dreary. Everyone's trying to outdo each other with castles, but no one's paying attention to the monks. But these guys, they're busy making good wine. You heard that right. The monks, the ones who are supposed to be all about silence and prayer, are out here turning wine into an art form. Forget the peasant wine the Romans were drinking. These monks aren't playing around. They're out in the vineyards, studying soil like it's the next big scientific breakthrough. They knew their terroir before it was cool. That's fancy for soil and climate, by the way. Why the obsession? Because they wanted wine that was more than just something to sip on during Mass. They wanted wine so divine that even the Pope would take a moment to say, okay, this is good. And honestly, it worked. And by the time they were done, winemaking was elevated. It wasn't just something you drank. It became a craft. Thanks to them, we're sipping on some of the finest wines today, not the bitter, watered-down stuff the Romans had. So, next time you pour a glass, raise it for the monks. They didn't just pray all day. They made sure we'd have something worth toasting to. Monks in regions like Burgundy in France, parts of Italy, and Germany were basically the OG wine influencers. They were out there growing grapes, keeping meticulous records, and turning winemaking into the next big thing way before Instagram was even a twinkle in anyone's eye. Their record keeping was so detailed, it's like they were the wine librarians of the Middle Ages, ensuring future generations didn't forget how to make the good stuff. After the monks perfected their wine game, the Renaissance came along. And let's just say it wasn't about praying over wine anymore. It was time for wine to travel. The Renaissance. Wine goes global, and the goblets get fancier. The Renaissance. The world's changing fast. And guess what? Wine's along for the ride. It's no longer the exclusive drink of the rich and powerful. Suddenly, everyone wants a sip. From the upper crust to the common folk, wine is everywhere. It's not just a drink anymore. It's a symbol of sophistication, class, and maybe a little bit of showing off. People aren't just drinking wine to get tipsy. They're drinking it to prove they have taste. It's like walking into a party with a bottle of fancy wine while everyone else is grabbing beers. Suddenly, you're the one everyone's eyeing. Wine has also become part of everyday life. It's not just for feasts or religious ceremonies anymore. It's for lunch, dinner, and every moment in between. It's the drink that makes a simple meal feel like an experience. And just like that, wine went from being a casual drink to a global statement, making every toast feel a little more special and every meal a bit fancier. Enough of the Renaissance. Now let's fast forward to the 20th century where wine takes a bold step west. California is about to change the game. The 20th century. California gets its moment in the spotlight. Now we're in 1976. California did what no one thought was possible. They took down France in a blind taste test. Yeah, you heard that right. France, the country where wine was practically born, got smacked by a bottle from Napa Valley. suddenly acing the final exam and leaving the teacher speechless. That moment didn't just put Napa on the map, it changed everything. California wasn't just making wine anymore, they were making history. The world saw Napa Valley as a serious player, and wine from California started to get the respect it deserved. French wines were still the gold standard, but now people were talking about California in the same breath. Bold, vibrant, and in your face. California wines were like a rock star crashing the classical music scene. It was loud, it was proud, and it was here to stay. Wine today, from virtual tastings to weird wine trends. And here we are in the 21st century, where wine has evolved yet again. Just when you thought it couldn't get any crazier, we zoom into today. California has done its thing, and now everyone's trying to get in on the action. Wine has officially crossed the line from just a drink to a full-on lifestyle. People are snapping pics of their wine glasses like they're some kind of rare artifact because, let's face it, who doesn't love a good wine shot on Instagram? But it's not just about pouring a glass and calling it a day anymore. Nope. Wine has become an experience. From virtual tastings because who wants to leave the couch, to vineyard tours that make you feel like you're living in a wine commercial, people are treating wine like a mini vacation. Oh, and forget about just wine. We've got options for every taste. Natural, organic, low sugar, vegan, gluten-free. What's next? Wine that pairs with your mood? California may have kicked things off, but today's wine culture is a wild ride. Grab your glass because the wine world is just getting started. And that's a wrap on the history of wine. Whether we covered it all or missed a few vintage moments, who knows? But one thing's for sure, it's far from over. Cheers from Explainer Girl, and I'll catch you doozies in the next one.